Hi, and welcome to the BookishStitcher podcast. My name is Jeanette. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Goodreads as BookishStitcher, all one word. I hope you guys had an amazing 2 weeks since I last podcasted. I feel like a boss right now. I told myself after the last podcast, which was like, I think it was recorded, I'm pretty sure it was recorded late because I was trying to finish a finished object. I was like, I'm going to have my stuff done way before the podcast. I'm going to actually have all my projects in project bags this time, and I was like, and I'm gonna record earlier in the day so that it's not 2 a.m. and my husband and I are trying to upload it because it takes hours and hours to like get it all done and upload it. It's not like simple click of the button and 2 minutes later you're done. So I was like, I'm not gonna be like up all night trying to do the podcast anymore. We're gonna get it done in the morning, so it might be not as like bright as you're used to, but I get it done in the morning and then get on with the rest of the day, and so that this will probably be up much earlier in the day than it normally is because yeah, no more 2 a.m. uploading a podcast. From like, we started at like 7 or 8 p.m. and then spent like the next 6 hours getting the podcast up. So it's like, not anymore. And yeah, it's been a great 2 weeks because so many wonderful things have happened. I got to meet with, I mentioned last time I was hoping to get to meet with a life of her own, and we did get to meet, and we got to go to this downtown area called Pearl. If you're ever in San Antonio, you should definitely go check out Pearl. It's got amazing restaurants, it's got a bookshop. It doesn't have a yarn shop down there, but there is a yarn shop not too far away called Yarn Barn, my friend Enid owns, and it's got great shopping and all kinds of wonderful things. So I would definitely suggest if you're ever in the downtown area. It's not at the River Walk, but you could get there from it if you were willing to walk for a while. But yeah, so I got to do that, and then I had a knitting retreat that I went to last weekend, which was perfect because I just brought 2 of these projects and I got so much done on them. I have not been able to like sit and knit for hours on end maybe this whole year, because I have been to a couple other retreats this year, but they were classes, so I was taking notes or listening to the teacher and stuff like that, or knitting a little thing for the class or just different stuff like that, so you're not like just sitting and knitting on one project. But this, there are no classes, and it's just like, so it's check-in was at 2 p.m. on Friday, and you knit to whenever. I don't stay up late anymore. I'm in my 30s and I'm tired. They have 2 little kids, and one's not so little yet, but and then you have all day Saturday to knit, and then on Sunday you have like the morning to knit. So I got a lot done, and one of my friends was joking. I was like, okay, I have this many more rows till I can go to my next project, and I would spend like an hour and some odd minutes, and I'd be like, okay, 9 more rows, and she was like, did you just knit 1 row in that entire amount of time, my friend Tania? And I was like, yep, these rows take forever. So it was good to like be able to really put some time in on those projects because the rows are so long, and sometimes I don't get to finish a row just because it takes forever. But I have my finished objects, and they were done way beforehand. This first one you're gonna see was done like a day or 2 after the podcast finished last time. So I have my Toppets hat, and this is a different yarn that I used because I tried, like I said, to make it work, but I couldn't figure out either way, pulling from either end of the little ball to make it to where it was long enough to do the ribbing. So I just picked up this white color that I had as a scrap and did some ribbing in that, and the white's actually super soft, so it worked out well. And then I used the yarn that came with the pattern, and then I topped it with this little owl that it comes with. There's several different variations. There's a Christmas like Santa Claus one, there's a Nemo one, there's an owl, there's soccer ball, there's all kinds for whatever your child or the person that you're gifting it to would be interested in, and it's really cute. So my daughter is very excited to wear this, and I'm glad. I almost used up all of it. There was a tiny bit of this blue left up here that I didn't get to, but that's okay because I didn't want to make the hat ridiculously big. But it was very nice to like get this out of my stash. So that's one project done. And then the next thing I finished, the button is sewn on now, but the ends are not woven in because there are so many ends on this. It's just kind of ridiculous. But this is the Mitered hanging towel. That's a free pattern from Canada Living, and I had just barely started this last time I showed it to you, but I found the perfect button for it. I went to my button. Some people have a button jar or a button box. I have a button drawer. I have like a little organizer, and it has little drawers of various size. And so I went to my button drawer and I was looking through, and then all of a sudden I found this lone button that came like as an extra goodie in an order of Gnome Acres, because she dyes yarn, but she also has wooden button cutouts that she does. And so this was just perfect. And I think it would have just languished in there forever if it hadn't been for this project. So one button, perfect button. And this is the Mitered hanging towel. Like I said, it's done out of I Love This Cotton, and this is a color that I had in my stash when I just closed my eyes and went and randomly picked a color. And then this is some in a different I Love This Cotton color, and I had a scrap of it, but I had to go buy more, so that's kind of counterintuitive to where I was trying to use up yarn, but then I had to buy more to use up yarn, and now there's scraps left of both colors. But yeah, there's the pumpkin button. And after I sew in the ends, this can just go on my oven has a little bar that you use to open it. And I have one of these already that is in a pink and a blue with a bird button. It's a little bird on a tree branch. And that's perfect for springtime. But I've knit these for several other people, so this is like one of my most knitted patterns. But this is going to be for us for the fall. I'll still probably knit maybe sometime one for Christmas, because I think that would be very cute, but not this year. But there's that. And this is just a great gift. Like I totally encourage if you're looking for a quick gift idea and a cheap one, because this, you know, I Love This Cotton is super cheap, and you know, I'm sure we all have a random one-off button in our stash, and the pattern is free. So yay. I love this pattern because, you know, you start up with your biggest you cast on, and it only gets smaller and smaller, and it's super easy to add in scraps of whatever color you have. If you have variegated, you could just do it all in the garter stitch. If you have some solids, you could do it in, like I did, a variation on the stockinette and garter. So it's a great pattern. I really like it, as you could probably tell. I'm gonna have a sip of my coffee because I think it's cool enough. I love pottery mugs. I don't remember where I got this one from, somewhere off Etsy, but I'm having some San Marco, it's like apple crumble cake coffee. And I don't know if you guys remember last week I talked about that mug that I had gotten in my owl crate. Well, also along with the mug came a whole bunch of other stuff, but one of the things is my new favorite coaster. And all of their stuff is literary reference. They're not sponsoring this. I just love them so much. But all their things are literary reference. I don't recognize this because I, of course, have not read all the books in the world, but this says, all good things are wild and free, and it has mushrooms and little branches and flowers and a little fox. And it's a coaster. It came in the box. This last box was my favorite by far, and I feel like they're not charging enough for it because I get so much stuff for such a cheap price. But yeah, so those are my finished objects. Now to what I worked on, my whips. I will show you first things that I took to the retreat. So the first one I took, that my friend was joking with me about how long the rows were taking, was the 3-color cashmere shawl. And when I went, when I last showed it to you, I was still on the stripe part. And so I completed the eyelet a while ago, and then I had started the stripe part, and you had to do 20 stripes, and they were each getting longer and longer and longer. So my goal for the retreat, before I was allowed to touch any other project that I brought, because I only brought 2, was to finish the stripes. And I had several stripes still to go, because I can only do like 1 or 2 rows a day on this because it just takes such a long time, and I don't have that amount of time to sit down and commit to it. So the retreat was amazing for that. And so I finished the stripes in the pink and the brown, and this is done in Stunning String Studio. I got the name right. I am on this week. Like we're awake. It's maybe better to do it when I've only been awake for a couple hours versus like, you know, 16, 17 hours awake. And so, and also we had daylight saving times here in Texas, and I love daylight savings because I no longer have to wake up in the dark every morning. So this is that. And then I added in the third color of this, and it is this gorgeous blue, and it's a textured pattern that's doing there. So I'm just, you know, doing 1 or 2 rows a day, and this is so exciting because it's this blue, then one more section, and then the bind off section. So I am so close to being done with this. And yeah, I think the blue looks really, sorry, I think the blue looks really nice and pretty against that. It's this bright kind of pop of color. And the bag that I have this in, I'll take another sip of my coffee because my voice is going. The bag that I have this in is my Diana Couture. And I took this to the retreat because I was knitting the pink and brown at the same time, and I've talked about whenever I'm doing a shawl that has 2 colors, I love this bag because you can kind of see it, I still have it in there, but I have 2 colors in there, and I have it snapped closed, and I just filter the 2 colors through that little hole right there, and it works splendidly. So if ever you need a bag, the perfect bag for your 2 color shawls, I definitely recommend this one. It's just amazing. So it snaps closed, and it was great for carrying around the campsite because this retreat is at like, you're, you know, walking through dirt. It's a campsite. It's not, there is a lodge, but I didn't get to stay in the lodge because I think you can only get in the lodge if, you know, you have to have been going there for a while, or I'm not sure, but I was in an Airstream next to the lodge, which is like, you know, a little, it's not flying, but like, it looks like a mini saucer, or like a FO, flying object, or UFO, but it's comfy, and my mom was there with me because she, you know, really likes this retreat, and so that was fun for her to get to go and knit some and hang out and things like that. So the project I brought for after I'd finished the stripes was my Garter goodness, and it's in a Bags by Awesome Granny. I had to put it in a Bags by Awesome Granny because I got to see Darlene and hang out with her and Carrie at the retreat, so that was so much fun. And this had to be moved onto a new cable or a new needle because it has gotten so enormous. It was on my fixed driftwoods, but it's still too big for this, but it was so scrunched up on the other one that I could not even barely knit. But this is where I was last time. Where is it? There it is. That pumpkin scone right there. And so I've knit several inches, and I finished. So the first color in it is the Lolo Did It in the Fairy Pools. The next color is Primrose Yarn Company in the Lannister. And then this new one that I've just added in 2 rows is some Neely's Knits that I have been in love with. It's been in my stash for a while, and I have been in love with it, but I've tried it on so many projects and it didn't look right. So I'm so glad that this, I know it will be great for this and it'll work really well because it's just this beautiful, like, light, different shades of purples and then bronze and brown, and it's so gorgeous, and it's going to transition perfectly from the one before it. So that's my Garter goodness, and I've just been loving this so much that I only want to work on it and nothing else. So yeah, and on that one as well, I am over the halfway point, yay, because it only has 4 colors. And I am now into the 3rd color, and it might be done before the end of the year, which makes me so happy because I thought that this was going to go on for like a year. Well, I mean, I did start it in February, but I only worked on it a little bit in February and then hadn't picked it up again till October. So if you look at like just the time I was knitting it, it hasn't taken as long as I thought it would. Oh, and I forgot to say, the shawl that I'm wearing is I believe the Ashburn. It's by Melanie Berg. And I used a kit that I had gotten from Skein Yarn in their sport weight. The pattern calls for fingering, but I did it in sport weight. And this is deceptive because you might like, oh, is it cold in Texas? No. There's air conditioning, and I am in full-on rebellion denial. Texas is the hottest it has ever been, and each year it gets hotter and hotter, but it's like, it was 90 in November, 90 degrees Fahrenheit in November, and that's just unheard of. And my husband and I were saying yesterday that our dream is to move north. Like, we keep asking our kids if they would like to move north, but they're like, no, we'll miss our friends. So as soon as they're out of the house, which is several years, but we're gonna move north, and we're going to be around seasons and snow and just wonderfulness. But we have decided, because we never get to see snow, we are gonna start taking winter vacations to where we go to north to the snow. So we're gonna go this year to Michigan sometime in the winter and let the kids play in the snow, and they're gonna have all their knitwears, and I'm gonna get to wear my knitwear, because I even in the mornings you would think like, oh, okay, maybe it heats up to 90, but does it start off cooler? No, it's like 76 Fahrenheit and then it goes into 90. So you don't even have cool mornings right now. And I'm hoping that a cold front will come and stay, because normally you have this in October where it kind of teases you, early October, where you'll have a cold front will go away and cold front will go away. But normally by November, the cold weather, especially in the mornings, is here to stay, and that's not happened at all. So if you have any special weather knitting and special weather mojo, if you could like send stuff down to Texas, because I've been like watching on Instagram all the pictures of snow, and it makes me so sad. I'm like, oh, I want snow. Some friends in Canada had snow, and I'm like, I want snow. So not that Texas will ever get snow, but at least like colder weather would be, at least normal, temperatures would be welcomed. But I guess this is like the new normal, since this is kind of how it's been for the last few years. But next, on to some new projects that I have, because I've been like enjoying going into my stash and picking up older yarns. And so in my Fat Squirrel Fibers, this is like my fall bag, and I was like, yeah, I forgot, I need to use that. So in here is, I believe, the Yoked baby cardigan, and it is I believe it's a Hannah Fettig, I believe, because I had all these grand plans, if you'll remember, if you've seen the show at the beginning of the year, to like feature a different designer every month and knit a new pattern of theirs every month, and then that just completely fell aside, because this has been the busiest, crazy year I've had in my life, and just with lots of different changes and stuff like that. And so I was not able to knit as much as I normally have been. But this was one of the ones that I had planned to do. Knitbot, who is Hannah Fettig, and I had planned to knit this sweater. And it is a really clever way that it's done, to where the increases that are very simple, but they're built into the pattern in such a way that it builds on itself very prettily. And I'm not quite sure, this sounds funny, but what size I'm doing. I started off with the 6-year-old size, but I only have 2 skeins of this yarn, which was some of my older stash, and it's Gnome Acres in her Chunky Gnome, and it's in the Butter Cow colorway. And so I only have 2 of these, so I don't know if it's enough to make a 6-year-old size, but I decided, because I'm using Aran weight instead of worsted, to go up a needle size. So I potentially could do a smaller size, and because of the larger gauge, still get a bigger enough sweater. So we'll see. And also I could do the button band in a separate color, like a pink or something, just to kind of make this yarn go farther. But what I intend to do is get to where I could do the sleeves and then just make very short sleeves. She has a little bit of a longer sleeve in the pattern. It's like almost a mid upper arm sleeve. I plan to just do a very cup sleeve and then use the rest to get the body as long as I can. But that's how much I've done. I just started this Thursday, I think, but this yarn is so nice and squishy, and I'm using it on my marbles. And yeah, it's like a beard, but it's going to be a baby yoked cardigan, and it's going to be a super easy fast knit, which I'm very excited about. This color is really pretty. It's kind of a yellowish cream, and it's nice because it's on a size 9 needle, so it goes fast. So that's the Yoked baby cardigan. And then the next thing I just started last night, because while I was at the knitting retreat, I was talking to Darlene, who does the bags by Awesome Granny, and I was saying that, you know, my son has this sweater that is orange and blue, and I knit it for him the last time I did Camp Loopy, which was when he was like 5 or 6, and he's now 11. And he still wears it. It's like here, and it's tiny, and it doesn't fit him, and that's the only sweater that the last sweater that I knit him was that one. And I kept like casting on sweaters for him. I got this Knit Picks, some kind of yarn to cast on a sweater for him last year, and I hated the yarn. It felt like, you know, people say like the squeaky knitting with plastic, like a couple rows in, I was like, I can't do this. And so Darlene was like, you need to knit that boy another sweater. So my son and I went through all of Ravelry and picked a pattern, and he found Nate's Hoodie, which goes up to the largest sizes, basically will fit him. It's the size for 10-year-olds, but he's a very tiny 11-year-old, so this should fit him. I mean, he was still successfully, even though it was tiny on him, wearing a sweater for a 5 or 6-year-old. So I might have made it a little bit bigger because that's kind of what I tend to do, but he was still being able to wear it. So yeah, this hopefully will last him for another couple years. And this is in my Casey's Pockets to Go bag. I have everything in a project bag. I feel so on top of my life. And so in here, I was like, okay, what kind of yarn do I want to use? Because I did not like the last yarn that I tried to knit him a sweater with. And what better yarn to knit with than your own yarn that you've hand dyed. So this is some Open Skies yarn, because I was part of the yarn crawl where my yarn was featured at the shop fly, like I mentioned several times. But so I had a whole bunch of yarn dyed up for the yarn crawl, and they sent me some back, and I was hoping that like a ton of this would come back, but a lot of it got bought up, and all that came back were 3 skeins in the worsted. And so it's not enough to make him a sweater, but I'm going to substitute, I'm going to use all of this that I can, all these 3 skeins, and then I'm going to add in like a darker blue for sleeves and for the hood and stuff like that. But there is 1 skein of this left in a fingering weight, and it's in my Etsy shop because now the Etsy shop has yarn in it again, yay! So if you would like to go and get some yarn, it's there, you can go check it out. But it's Open Skies yarn, and I put in the yarn that was left after I dyed the yarn for the yarn crawl. And so I should probably show you what this looks like. So this is my colorway called Titanic, and it was dyed up in my Kate Winslet collection. That's what it looks like in the cake. And then this is what it looks like knit up. I just started this last night, like I said, so there's not a lot to it. But it's got whites for the iceberg, blue for the ocean, and then this different colors of steely gray for the steel on the ship. And so yeah, it's very pretty, and it's very, you know, it's got a lot of depth to it because of the different colors in it. And I'm excited to see how it looks all knit up, but I can already, you know, I've already got enough to where I can see a good amount of it. And these are some little stitch markers that my friend Jennifer gave me when we were at a retreat together as like a roommate package. And this is my Likey driftwood needles that I love. And yeah, this is going pretty fast since it's a raglan. You know, you go for a little ways and then go back and pick up the hood later, but I am going to try to really focus on this because, you know, winter might not ever come to Texas, but since we are going to go on a winter vacation, I want him to be able to have this to wear, because I don't want, we're going with some family and I don't want them to be like, why is he wearing that sweater that's so tiny for him? It's fine for around the house, but hopefully he'll have this. And he did ask or decide that he would like a pullover version of a hoodie instead of a open front cardigan kind of style. So that's what it is. I hope you can see that. But yeah, and this is the Titanic colorway, Open Skies yarn, and there's just 1 left in the fingering weight in the Etsy shop. So that is all of my, and I have the other skeins caked up in here. That is all of my knitting that I've done in the past 2 weeks, which I feel like is super amazing amount for what I've been accomplishing, and it just makes me so happy that knitting retreat, I was able to return to my old self of just like banging out so much knitting in that time, but unfortunately it's, you know, or fortunately because I had to get back to work, but that it was only, you know, a day and a half, so I didn't get to like finish something, which would have been amazing, but I got a lot of knitting time in, and it felt so good to just sit and knit again. But yeah, that's all my knitting. And then I'm just realizing right now that I forgot to bring down the finished spinning for you guys to show you. I told you last week that I was applying and that I have finished spinning this week, and I do have finished, but I forgot to bring it down. I might, if I remember, edit in right here a picture of it, but we have like other things that we have to go to right after this, so I might not remember. But yeah, if I don't remember, I will definitely bring it next week to show you. And that is the spinning part. And so then next, I don't have any stash enhancements to give you or to show you, but I did want to talk about, because before the retreat, they always have this thing on the retreat where you can, like a yarn table where you can bring yarn that is unwanted or unloved, or that you think somebody else might love more, and you can bring it and other people can get enjoyment out of it. So I went through my stash beforehand and got a huge bag of stuff, and I've really been thinking recently about what kind of knitter am I now, because I know when I first started knitting I was definitely a grab what looked pretty to me and then just find something and make it out of it, and then if it didn't translate well to the project, I was just like, oh well, and then I would never wear that. Like countless little tiny shawls that I made out of a single skein of stock yarn, that the yarn looked gorgeous in the skein and the colors were beautiful, but then when it was knit up it just looked crazy to me. I'm discovering that I much prefer more subtle, like I really like speckled and I really enjoy solids. Variegated is okay for a few things, but not a lot of things. I'm not becoming a super big fan of the extremely variegated with like 5 colors that don't really go together and just like whoosh, crazy, because they may look gorgeous in the skein, but they either sit in my stash or I knit them into something I don't wear. So in the essence of trying to think about like cultivating my stash into something that represents me as a knitter and that makes me feel happy as a knitter, I went through and I got rid of or gave to new homes, and they were so happy. There were so many people there that were like, oh, I love this, this is so pretty. And I had just had it sitting in my stash, like I don't really like it that much, or I know I'm not going to like it knit up, and it was being unused. And now that it's going to go somewhere that people are going to use it and love it, that makes me feel so much happier, because really, like if it's just sitting in my stash and I never use it and I don't super still have that love towards it, then there's no reason for me personally to keep it. And so I had this big bag and I went through and I was like, okay, I like solids, I like speckles that are subtle, I like variegateds that tend more towards tonal. So like the Titanic colorway, that is technically a variegated, but the colors go so well together with the blues and the grays and the white. It's not like blue, green, purple, orange. That, while my son might wear it, I would never wear something with like blue, purple, green. I think one of the skeins I got rid of was so pretty in the skein, and it was like a Malabriga sock or something, or Madeline Tosh something, but it was orange, purple, green, and black. Or not black, it wasn't like a Halloween color, blue, orange, purple, green, and blue, something like that. But it was super bright and very pretty, but then I knew if I ever knit that up into a shawl, I would never wear it. Some people can really enjoy like the bright and like stand out knits. I prefer to be blended into the back of the crowd and just have my knits be very subtle. So I looked through my entire stash and cultivated it with that in mind. And I just thought it was a really good exercise for me, because we change as knitters. We are not the same, especially if you've been knitting for as long as I have. I've been knitting since my early 20s, and so, you know, like a decade or more, like a decade and a couple years. So I have changed from what I got and what I purchased back then and what I purchased even 5 years ago. I have completely changed as a knitter, and now I know what I like. And so it was nice to go through my stash with that eye and just allow myself to get rid of any guilt and just get rid of stuff that I didn't want I didn't love, or I knew that I would not love knit up, because it was just going to sit there forever and I'm not going to, you know, knit it up and love it, then I was just like, I don't want that in my stash for me personally. So, you know, it was just so freeing and it felt really good, because I know some people, and I've talked about this, I prefer to have a smaller stash. It's not tiny. I have friends at the retreat that like their stash is like 20 skeins of yarn and that's it. And if they need something normally for a project, like a sweater's quantity, they will go buy it. And then I have friends who have enormous stashes that are so beautifully organized and huge, and they, you know, it could be a yarn store, and they love having that freedom of knowing anything that they could ever want to knit or need, they can find within their stash. And it just depends what kind of knitter you are, because that, to me, while I love looking at other people's stashes that are like that, to me it would be overwhelming. And then also at the same token, to me, having a tiny like 20 skein stash, it would mean for me that I was not getting to go and like go to yarn crawls and go out to DFW or yarn festivals and buy stuff and kind of feel that shopping experience with friends. So I, you know, have found my happy medium, and I'm really happy with it. And it felt really good to kind of make my stash match me as a knitter, if that makes any sense. So if that sounds like something that you would like to do, I thought I'd just talk about it a little bit, because I think it's definitely interesting to see how we've progressed as knitters and who we are now versus how we were just even a few years ago. Because you might have like always bought single skein sock yarns, and now you might be a huge sweater knitter, and you might not have much, you know, sweater yarn or, you know, toy knitter or whatever or sock knitter in either way. So it's just kind of neat to see how we've progressed in our knitting journeys. And that was a lot to say for that. Yeah, so as far as the Ravelry group goes, I haven't been on Ravelry much, but I'm going to try to be on there more. I think what I'm going to do is set a certain day and have like an hour that day, or every certain day every week, and have an hour that day where I go and I, you know, am on there, because I always say, oh, okay, I'm going to write this person back, or okay, and then it's bedtime and I'm crashed, and then I remember in the morning, oh, I didn't do that, and then the day is busy and working and taking kids to school, and it just slips out of my mind until, you know, and it just kind of keeps going and going. But I think if I set aside a time every week, then that will make it easier for me to actually be participating in stuff, because I tend to only participate in things if it's really quick and convenient. Like I can participate in my Goodreads page because I just have to click in like the page number and that's it, or I can click a like button and it's very fast. But replying to messages or typing replies to thread comments and stuff takes a lot longer. So yeah, and also right now I forgot to mention it's November and I am doing NaNoWriMo with my friend Katie, and she's writing a really cool book about her dad, and I am writing a suspense mystery thriller about bad neighbors and crazy neighbors. It's an interesting combination that's happening, and it's been a lot of fun. I haven't been able to write as much as is required to get to the goal because I'm just so busy, but I'm enjoying the little bit of writing I'm getting to do, and it's fun to dive into that, which used to be one of my biggest passions. I remember in high school and college, I thought that I was going to be a writer. I, published poetry to different things. I'd published short stories before I got married and all this kind of stuff, and it was like, and all my teachers knew, like, they were like, you're going to be a writer, you're going to be, and so it was kind of this thing that when I had my kids, it just kind of died off. But I'm ready to venture back into that. And speaking of writing, well, before I get to the book really fast, I'm going to put up a thread because it is November and December, and it's like our 3rd or 4th annual Sparkle Cal, and I have a sparkle project from last year I didn't finish, so I'm hoping to pull that out and just knit a row a day. That's been my thing lately, like 1 or 2 rows a day, and that makes progress. You don't have to sit and have hours. If you're a busy person working, or a busy caretaker, or a mom, or grandmother watching kids, or an aunt, and whatever, if you're busy, 1 row a day still makes progress. And I'm just giving myself a get off of guilt pass. Like, I'm not going to feel guilty about not having 3 or 4 hours a day to put into a project. If I have 30 minutes, then that's enough for me. So yeah, the Sparkle Cow will be going on for November and December, and if you want to join in, there will be a thread up there, and I will lock the thread for the October sock blank because I forgot to do that, but I do have the prize ready. It's a sock blank, surprise, surprise, and I will pick a winner for that and let you guys know on the, I will tag the person on the Ravelry group. So now the book. So this is a book that I read a little while ago. I'd heard it recommended in several spots as like a, you know, good fall time, kind of dark, not necessarily Halloween scary, but kind of just very atmospheric and dark. And it's a YA, and it is by Kendare Blake, and it's called 3 Dark Crowns. And I'll read the poem on the back because it kind of gives, like, lets you know what it's about. 3 dark queens, my voice is going. 3 dark queens born in a glen, sweet little triplets will never be friends. 3 dark sisters, all fair to be seen. 2 to devour, 1 to be queen. So the premise is you have that every, you know, so every generation, 3 triplets are born, and the triplets all, each one of them, their sisters, all have different powers. One is an elemental and can control like water and fire. Another one can talk to animals and has like an animal, kind of spirit animal. And another one is a poisoner, and they have the ability to take in poison and not die. And so they all grow up and are they grow up together for the first couple years. Then they're separated and sent to these different parts of the world to cultivate, it's my word, to cultivate their craft or their power. And then once they turn, I believe, 18, they come together and battle it out, and only one will survive, and the one that survives gets to be queen. So this book is, if you like books that constantly you're like, what's happening? Oh my gosh, did that just happen? And you can't turn the pages fast enough. But if you also like dark, kind of atmospheric fall kind of reads, this is perfect. And if you like YA, this will be a perfect book if you haven't already read it. And I finished this one so fast, and I have the next one. I don't know if it's a trilogy or if it'll just be the 2 books, because I haven't read the second, but I have the second, and I'm excited to read it over a winter break. I'm going to take it with me whenever we go to Michigan for some snow. That's where we've decided we're going to go, is Michigan. And to go play in the snow and read books by a fireplace. It's just, doesn't it sound lovely to sit with your book by a fireplace with snow falling outside? That may be your life all winter just normally, but that is not mine, and I am so excited about it. I can't even like see the smile. It's like 100 times this on the inside. So yeah, this is a great book and highly enjoyed it. It is very dark and it is very page turn quick, and I loved it. So if you have not read this, definitely check it out. And that is all I have for this week. I'm gonna make, oh, and I forgot to tell you, at the end of this video there should be a very pretty like little 10-15 second clip of at the campsite that I stayed at. There's this beautiful river that flows through, and it's got like canyon kind of style things and like rock facing, and it's just gorgeous. And I love being by water. It's one of the ocean, streams, rivers, any kind of water is very calming and restorative to me. So I took a little clip of the site and I wanted to share it with you guys, so it'll be at the end of this video. But until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week, couple weeks, and get to do all the things you love. Okay, bye friends.